If you're like me, this might be just about the worst gold pan you'll ever buy in your life.
What did he say?
Now that I've got your attention, I'm a gold prospector from the northeast of Victoria, Australia, and I spend a lot of my time out on creeks, panning and sluicing for alluvial gold. And an integral piece of equipment that I take out every single trip is a gold pan. And recently I discovered just how much gold I've been losing from using a Garrett Super Sluice. Today I'm going to show you exactly why I was losing gold and give you a visual representation that might just open your eyes to a problem you didn't know you had. And if you have this problem, well, it's time to change gold pans. I'm going to talk about color blindness and gold prospecting. There are 4 main types of color blindness, and I fit into one called dewy tan. At least that's how I pronounce it. Within each of those 4 categories, there's a scale. So sometimes you might only be very mildly colorblind in that section and it doesn't really affect your day-to-day life. Or if you're like me, you're quite severely colorblind within that section and it can have a massive impact on your life. To give you an idea of how colorblind I am, on the right is what I see and on the left is normal color vision. This is just out in the bush, and as you might be able to tell, it's pretty severe in a basic setting. I made a full video on this clip on my other channel, Spud Engineering. There's a link down below and it goes in depth to what it's actually like being colorblind. But for now, back to pans. At any rate, let's go and put some gold in a pan, and I'm going to use an app to show you guys what I see through my eyes, so that you have an understanding about why the Garrett pans might be costing you gold if you're a colorblind gold prospector. Now, Minelab have done something very interesting and put their color theory on the back of their panning kit box. So if you own this box, Minelab's done you a bit of a favor and presented you with the logic behind their choice in color. This is called color theory. You can pause and read their logic, but basically what Minelab has chosen to do is go with complementary opposite colors. They've gone with the color of natural gold, they've looked straight across the color wheel at its complementary opposite. Now I'm aware there's no such thing as an opposite color, but there are cool colors and warm colors. Blue is cool, yellow is warm. This creates high contrast, or in other words, a color that stands out from the other one. Here I have a pan from XP, and here I have a pan from Minelab. Now, the XP pan is a little bit newer, and therefore it has that nice dark blue that the Minelab pan starts out with. But as time goes on, the Minelab pan is going to be exposed to rocks and the sun, and it does this fading thing. So this is a really good example of how the pan changes color over time. So if you had a new pan, a little bit of natural gold in there would look like this. And if you have an old pan, it would look like this. But that's if you have normal color vision. Let's turn on my app. The thing you need to understand is that the normal color is on the left and what I see is on the right. To me, there is no difference between these 2 pictures at all. But with normal color vision, this is going to look different to you guys compared to what this picture looks like. When you see the gold on this side, the gold in the faded pan blends in a little bit more because we've lost that contrast from the blue, which I can normally see. It fades out to the point where this starts blending in because this, to me, looks a little bit more gray. Let's talk about Garrett's color theory. They don't really put any advertisement on the box as to why they chose the olive green that they chose, like Minelab did with their blue pans. So I had to go on a little bit of a color theory deep dive, and what I can tell you is that the Minelab pans are part of the primary color range. That means that red, blue and yellow make up every other color. So blue and yellow being on that scale, when the Minelab pan fades, it doesn't fade as hard in the colorblind spectrum. It doesn't change its pigmentation overly much, but the Garrett pan does. And that's because it's made up of yellow and blue. And they're part of what's called a triadic color system. So the Minelab pan, the color of gold, and Garrett sit at equal spacings around a color wheel. But green and gold in general sit next to each other on the color wheel. They're actually quite similar, even though that certain shades of green can provide a lot of contrast. So the problem becomes once your pan gets used, it starts to change color and it gets closer to that yellow look. Now in my world, because I can't see green properly, when that changes, it's more significant. We have the Garrett pan. Now remember, the picture on the left is what normal color vision is, and the picture on the right is what I see. There are no discernible differences between what I'm seeing on the left and the right. And for the most part, I can describe this pan in my world as more of a grey. Now, it might look different on the left-hand side of the screen because you have normal color vision. You're seeing my world through normal color vision eyes. I can't see the colors that you're seeing. That means that in my reality, what I'm visually seeing is this is grey. Now, if we put some gold in there, I'm going to assume that on this side there's a lot more contrast compared to this side where there is far less contrast for me. What I see here is a grey pan. And the problem with having a grey pan is that it is a neutral tone. There's far less contrast in this compared to when you have a dark olive green pan against yellow. And the problem isn't big flaky bits like this, it's all the really small pieces like this one here or even these tiny little dots over here. Once these pans are subjected to a lot of sun and use, they do the same things that the Minelab pans do. And that is that they start to fade. And that means that the green starts going towards even more of a grey. So the gold literally camouflages into the pan. I didn't realize this until I started using a black pan. Now this is why I like using a black pan, because the contrast is always there. I never have any issue with the color black when it comes to gold panning. It's argued in the Garrett literature that you don't want to use a black pan because you will be unable to see all the black sands and not get your gold clean. But this just isn't true because you don't do cleanups on the creek, you do them at home with specialized equipment where you can take your time. All you're interested in at the creek is grabbing this gold out of your pan along with whatever black sand might be around it so that you can do the next pan and be more productive. Garrett, don't get me wrong, I love your pans. They're a very well thought out design. It's just for me and many other people in the world who suffer with color blindness, it makes it very difficult to see the gold sitting on the base of the pan. And I know it's got to do with brand identity, why people like Minelab and Garrett choose a color scheme to overall fit out their pans, but it would benefit all prospectors if they gave us a choice. Maybe we could buy a black super sleuth that would allow people to have the exact pan that they want to be able to use in the right color to allow them to see gold. Something to think on. And Garrett, if you'd like to do a special set of Vogus black pans, I'd be all ears.